Hello everybody, I hope you guys are all enjoying your day. Today we're going to be looking at your next winter storm forecast here, and this is going to be a winter storm that's going to be moving from parts of the northwest, and it's going to be actually entering parts of the Midwest and Great Lakes, and then moving further out east into parts of the northeast, and mainly the interior northeast and the upper Midwest are going to be the ones most affected, as well as areas in the higher elevations of the northwest. So let's get right into it here. We have your National Weather Service pulled up. We have winter storm watches already in effect for parts of the Sierras as well as parts of western Wyoming and northern Colorado. That's all the blue, the winter storm watches, as well as some winter weather advisories in central Wyoming, and as well as parts of western Montana, northern Idaho, and northeastern parts of Oregon, as well as one little area there of winter storm warnings in Oregon and Washington. We also have some high wind warnings in effect for parts of southeast Wyoming, and we also have wind advisories and also some winter weather advisories there for parts of Minnesota, South Dakota, Iowa, and parts of Nebraska there. And then we also have these flood watches or these flood warnings in effect mainly around those rivers in parts of the southeast, as you've just been getting a lot of rainfall. If you do live in the southeast, you definitely know that you have been seeing a lot of rainfall with these past systems, and that's mainly because you've had this ridge sitting out over parts off the Florida coast, and that is kind of died down and moved further to the south today, and tomorrow it's going to move far to the south, and then it's going to move back up north and re-strengthen. But that's been leading all these storms to move further to the north and east, and that has also been allowing you always to be in the warm sector in parts of the southeast, and that's led to a lot of rainfall if you do live in the southeast, and that's why you have so many flood warnings. So definitely turn around, don't drown. Make sure that you are being cautious on those roadways. Now, something else that was very notable today was the record cold temperatures. So I took a screenshot of the record temperatures, and this was earlier this morning. And this is just one screenshot, but there have been numerous more, probably over 100 records already broken. So anywhere in this light blue is within 3 degrees of a record low. So that's already getting close to a record low in any of these colors right here. But then as you get into that kind of medium shade of blue, that's where you're tying your daily record low, and you see we have that over much of the Midwest and parts of the central United States, and then we have even a lot of areas actually breaking the record, where you see that a blue outlined in white. That's where you're breaking a record, and that's through much of the states of Minnesota, Iowa, Illinois, Wisconsin, and through much of Missouri, and even stretching there into parts of even into Kansas, and even a little bit there of Arkansas, seeing some very cold temperatures as you got that trough to dig in to parts of the central United States, and this trough is moving further and further to the east, and by Saturday it'll be over parts of the northeast and Great Lakes, where you're going to have some very cold air. So let's start talking about this system that's going to be impacting us through late this week, so probably right around Saturday, Sunday time frame into the early to mid part of next week. So this is a ways out, and really I like to stay within a closer time period, but really there's not a lot going on with regards to the weather. It's really just the cold that's going to be moving in, but even that is going to be out by pretty much tomorrow. So really, we're going to be keeping an eye on this system that's going to be currently moving through parts of the northwest, and this is going to be moving out to the east, according to many of the models. And something that's really struck me is how consistent the models have been with really showing the same thing. The European model and the GFS model have been showing pretty much the same thing in terms of snowfall for Minnesota, North Dakota, South Dakota, and Wisconsin, and the UP of Michigan, and for even parts of the northeast with snowfall. They've been pretty consistent on the location. It's just that the European model is showing a lot heavier snowfall, an extra about 6 inches of snowfall than the GFS is showing. But either way, they have pretty much the same placement of this snow, and they pretty much have the same storm track. And we even have ensemble support, which is even more important. We're going to be looking at all of that later on in the video. So Let's start off here with the European model first, and then we'll go over the GFS. We have some rainfall and snowfall moving over parts of the northwest, but you're gonna have one of these waves to break off and move east. So you're gonna have this continuous string of moisture, like we've seen a couple times this winter already, over parts of Oregon and Washington, and streaming into parts of the northern Rockies. But this is when you start to get that disconnect. Now you're gonna start to see this polar jet stream. I'll roll it back a little bit. You have this well, not polar jet stream, but you have this northern jet stream that's dipping down something like this, and this is able to catch some of that cold air. You're gonna have this cold air on the northern side of this, and that's why you have all this very cold air already in place, but that's still locked to the north. And after the system goes by, you're gonna get all that cold air to really come south and very far to the south. So as you can see, this is your storms forming, and it broke off from parts of the northwest. And you see a lot of that moisture being pulled northward from the Gulf of Mexico. And you see that rain snow line very far to the north, but definitely behind this, all that cold air is locked to the north, and it's ready to come down. And it's going to be pretty much another story, kind of like what happened today, yesterday, and even the day before, with all that very cold air, but it's going to be to a lesser extent, according to many of these models. Now, we have that rain snow line, according to the European model, over somewhere right around the Minnesota-Iowa border, and then running through parts of southern Wisconsin. So we'll have to see where this border of rain and snow really sets up, and this is definitely going to fluctuate to the north and to the south. Now, this would be by Tuesday, this would be by Monday night at this point, but now getting into your Tuesday morning, and it's starting to move over to the northeast. Now, you have this high pressure that's going to be exiting quickly, and again, this is all that cold air on the backside. This red line is your 32-degree line, and you see how far south that is getting, and that's definitely indicating all that cold air, and that cold air has already been unleashed on the backside by this point. By Tuesday morning, you have this high pressure that's quickly exiting, so you might actually see a start of some snowfall. We'll definitely have to work out the details as we get closer over parts of the northeast, but you see that rain snow line still hovering over parts of the northern parts of the lower peninsula of Michigan. So a very far north rain snow line, which is going to be dragging in some very warm air ahead of this system, and you're going to see this very cold air behind this system, which is something that definitely can fuel this system, and I think it will have quite a bit of energy. So now getting into your Wednesday morning, you start to see heavy snowfall according to this model breaking out over parts of the northern parts of New England, and then moving out by Wednesday. This is all according to the European model, but something that's extraordinary is how much support it has from also the GFS and the European ensemble, as well as the GEFS, which is the GFS ensemble. So here we see we have about 2 to 6 inches according to the European model indicated over parts of the interior northeast and parts of the upper Midwest. Now this is too early to look at these for exact numbers, but it gives us a general placement that this is going to be a fairly far north system, and I'll probably have my snowfall forecast out on this as we get closer if this still is holding up by the models. Now we're going to start to look at the GFS model now, and I'll show you what the GFS is showing. So here's the GFS precipitation. Here's that system that breaks off by Sunday, and now getting into your Monday dips down to the south, and you start to see all that moisture start to organize, and you see generally that central Wisconsin, southern Michigan, southern Minnesota, northern Iowa seems to be the bullseye over parts of the Midwest, and then over parts of the Northeast. It's going to be over parts of northern New England with that bullseye, and then you see it's a really far north system, and this reminds me of about Winter Storm Isaiah. I believe it was Winter Storm Isaiah, one of these systems, and you had again that high pressure out here, and that was able to dip in some cold air very briefly, and that allowed for some snowfall on the onset. But most of this is going to change to rain. You see, you have that warm front situated something like this. Well, this is your dragging cold front on the backside. You have your warm front to the north, and that's bringing warm air very far to the north with that rain snow line all the way up into upstate New York. And you see, it's a lot of snow, very heavy snow as you get into the interior northeast, but really you have to go very far north to get all that snow. This will be by Tuesday and now by Wednesday. And here's your snowfall from the GFS, and you see very similar, surprisingly similar to what the European model was showing. Now, this is the GFS model, and I'll go back to the European model. Now, there's not too many differences. You see they're pretty much the same, and I'll keep on flipping back and forth here. So They are pretty much the same. Rain snow line sets up pretty much the same. Now here's the European model on the rain snow line, and I'll outline it here, and then let's go to the GFS model, and you see pretty much the same, but the GFS has it slightly to the north, so we'll have to see. Definitely, a lot of things could change still, but it's really striking me how similar these models are, and we'll even look at the European ensemble model right now. So here is the European ensemble model, and you see uh, in fairly good agreement here. Now, this is a combination of about 50 models, so the fact that they're showing 5, 6 inch amounts, that shows that they have very high confidence that you are going to see a good amount of snowfall over parts of Maine, New Hampshire, Vermont, and into northern upstate New York, and you see even into parts of Wisconsin, the UP of Michigan, and even parts of the lower peninsula of Michigan, seeing a good dosing of snow according to the European ensemble model. Now, here's the GFS ensemble model, and you see, again, pretty much the same thing, and really something that I want you to take into account is that this rarely happens where 5 days out you're seeing both models are agreeing. Also, you have very strong ensemble support, which is when you have the ensemble models, the averaged out models, agreeing on something that the base models are also showing, and it's really something that doesn't happen too often as you get into that 5 day time frame. So definitely this is something that I'll keep an eye on, and I'll definitely have my snowfall and rainfall forecast out on this as we get probably into your Monday and Tuesday time frame as we're getting closer to this event. And also my weekly forecast will be out coming on Sunday, which I do every Sunday. So that is going to wrap up the video. Please consider liking the video, subscribing, and turning on notifications so you never miss a video when I do upload. Anyways, guys, that was Eli the World Guy, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Goodbye.